Alright, JBM here. Gonna give some overall thoughts on Scream 2. This franchise is really great. I mean, it isn't a straight horror comedy spoof like There's Something Out There or Student Bodies. Kevin Williamson took the concept of a real life psychotic and how the 80s slasher genre influenced him in life. And so all the characters, and it came out at a perfect time, 96, mid-90s, so it was about a fucked up kid who grew up in the 80s, and his mom let him watch 80s slasher movies, and he was a psychotic, and obviously, like he says, movies don't create psychotics, they make them more creative. It's full of good lines, good dialogue, great franchise. Filmed by Wes Craven, he's really multi-talented. His films, he can make a different franchise have its own feel. He's not a director where every movie feels kind of like a Dario Argento. You could tell it's a Dario Argento film or a Quentin Tarantino film. Wes Craven can adapt to any franchise, any decade, like I was saying, and this movie's full of pop culture and horror movie references, which is why it's such a great franchise and loved among horror fans. It isn't an overrated franchise. It should have made more with the Scream 4 release. But that's a whole nother story. I'm going to focus on Scream 2, which came out in 1997. It even, Titanic even pushed back the release date a week, not to directly compete with the Scream 2 release. And that's one of the greatest films of all time. Not only to say that it made over like $1 billion also, and just tells you the level of popularity that this franchise had. I was like 10 years old when it came out. Actually, my parents saw it in theaters, but they took me to the theaters, but they made me see Home Alone 4 or Home Alone 3, that one that came out without Macaulay Culkin and stuff. Anyway, I'm gonna get into this and give some overall thoughts throughout. Anyway, this has like more of a late 90s urban hip hop feel. And this Scream franchise created the trend of basically urban legend, Halloween H2O, I Know What You Did Last Summer, of where they put those WB actors into whodunit slasher type roles. They went kind of cheap in the gore in that era, but that was the first era of where I started watching horror movies. I wasn't allowed to watch horror movies until I was like 10, 11, 12, and they would always show this on Showtime. I actually saw Scream 2 before I saw Scream 1. Believe it or not. And anyway, the opening scene, they turned the incident into a franchise, and they're going to see Stab 1. That's a great scene. Both the killers are there. I'm going to start off with spoilers. This is for people who obviously are familiar with the franchise. Anyway, Mrs. Loomis is the one in the bathroom stall who ends up stabbing the black guy in the ear. That's a great death scene. But anyway, they say that the film within a film, Stab 1, was directed by Robert Rodriguez. But that's hilarious. I don't think he actually did it, but they just attached his name as a thing. He did a movie in that era too, The Faculty, which Dimension produced. And it's natural for Sidney to go to college in this one. I mean, the first one was like an isolated, like Halloween, When a Stranger Calls Happy Birthday to Me type feel. This one's more of a splatter university final exam, sorority house massacre type feel. So it gets both elements of the horror genre, the high school and college, two of the main groups that they focus on in characters for horror movies in the 80s. Anyway, so they have the opening scene. Yeah, that was done pretty decently. And then they have the film class discussion on the murder. and the sequels of franchises. And then Randy Meeks is quoted. Kevin Williamson makes him say that the horror genre was killed by sequels. I can't believe that they made Randy, his character, say that, because really, I think horror movies were built on iconic. It made the characters more iconic, and they were really built on sequels. Like Freddy Krueger. Can you imagine only having one movie of Freddy Krueger, Randy? Or Jason? If there wasn't no sequels, then there wouldn't even be a Jason. It would just be Mrs. Voorhees. Anyway, they give a bunch of shout-outs to James Cameron, one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. Hopefully he doesn't waste the rest of his career making Avatar sequels, because I think he should do more stuff outside of that franchise. I really hate that franchise. And then anyway, you know who's in that scene? Joshua Jackson basically has a cameo in that. He was in a few of the movies that came out, horror movies that came out in the late 90s too, like The Skulls and Urban Legends. And this is his only scene in this. This was such a cameo. He was I think he was in Dawson's Creek, that franchise also. And a bunch of these guys were like starting the prime of their careers, like I've had a bunch of great actors from then that were getting a bunch of roles and who were on TV series at the time. And yeah, so they filmed a lot of it in LA, even though it's supposed to be set in Ohio. But yeah, anyway, it's after, who else is in that scene? Sarah Michelle Gellar, like I was saying, Timothy Oliphant, Randy. And then we have Gail's cameraman delivering one-liners. Anyway, let's cut to the CC phone call. The Sarah Michelle Gellar death scene. Brilliantly filmed. Film meant to have the same feeling of the same effect as the Drew Barrymore death scene, which is one of the greatest opening horror scenes I've ever seen. One of my favorite. This scene's just brilliant. Ghostface calls her, and it's this is the first call from Ghostface by Mickey, and Mrs. Loomis is the one chasing after her in the house. But anyway, Mickey calls, and she's like, "Well, I'm gonna put you on hold." She's like, "Ted, you sound loaded," and he's like, "Who's Ted?" I love seeing that line. There's so many red herrings in this film compared to the first one. Let me just go over this. Like, if you're watching it for the first time, there's obviously her boyfriend, but you don't think that they're going to actually go to her boyfriend again. But I'm going to get to this. If you heard that there was obviously rewrites with the whole thing, in the original script it had like her boyfriend being the killer, and he was a film fanatic. He was basically Mickey combined into her boyfriend. And her friend, her African-American friend, was also going to end up being the killer. Kind of like a mockery of Candyman's daughter or something. Unbelievable, but that would be really unbelievable. Including Mrs. Loomis. So 3 Ghostface, that's really way too much. And they wanted to do Cotton Weary, ended up doing a revenge killing on Sidney also on top of it. But that was just way too much to throw at them. They were actually going to do that until it got leaked onto the freaking late 90s dial-up internet. Anyway, Dewey's even a suspect. He had the Dewey limp. I used to do the Dewey limp in middle school. That shit was scary. He's fucking scary in this. Like, I didn't even see the first one, but I knew that he obviously got fucked up like Ghostface in the first one when I first saw the movie back in the late 90s when they used to show it on Showtime up the butt. Even Randy's obviously a suspect because he has the knowledge of the horror movie fans. But they really grounded it, and these characters are well sculpted because, you know, Randy's just a geek. He's not really capable of murder. He's a fan of horror movies, and he's a fan of watching horror movies and knowing that the safety of that, you're not actually getting killed like a lot of other geeks out there. Anyway, The soundtracks, there's like too many upbeat songs, too many non-horror themes. That really takes away from the movie. That's really why I'm gonna rate it. That's why I'll get to my rating, but that's what takes away from the film. Anyway, it was rushed into production, so they did rewrites basically on set. Then there's the infamous cafeteria scene where Randy and Dewey meet, and then they're playing Stab 1 in the background. And it's like Luke Wilson as Billy Loomis' character. That shit's hilarious. And Tori Spelling. And they're talking about the rules for a horror movie sequel. About the upping of the body count. Such a great scene. You gotta give credit to, first and foremost, Jamie Kennedy. He's a really talented comedian. He's really great in this. And then he's like, Mrs. Voorhees was a terrific killer, and there's always room for Candyman's daughter. Wow. I just actually got done ironically seeing Candyman for the first time, and I was pleasantly disappointed. Do not recommend that for anyone. Unless your like favorite comedy is like House Party or something, like you like early 90s movies like that. And anyway, and then they're acting like in stage and drama filler, like Sidney's a talented actor or something. Yeah. And then it's Randy's death scene. Okay. This is one thing that really pisses me off. I thought this definitely should have been more iconic. The conversation between him and Ghostface was really good, and the Showgirls, when he's like, "What's your favorite scary movie?" and he's like, "Showgirls." That line was a hit in middle school. That line was hilarious. Everyone used to say that, and he's just like, "What's your favorite movie?" "House on Sorority Row," "The Dorm That Dripped Blood," "Splatter University," "Graduation Day," "Final Exam." And Mrs. Loomis supposedly is on the phone, and she's like, "Closer than you think." And then he's just like, then Gail and Dewey are like looking for Ghostface in the meantime, and Gail takes like the cell phone away from like some girl, and she's just like, "Who is this?" And the person on the other line's who is this? And she's like, "Gail Weathers, author of the Woodsboro Murders book." And the person on the phone's like, "Who?" It's like lines like that, the attention to detail of Kevin Williamson that makes his script so great. It's so great. Anyway, they take Randy in, and it's his death scene finally, and it happens off screen. They pull him into the news camera van, and I can't believe it. He deserved better for being such a fan of horror movies. But like I was saying, this movie's grounded in realism, so that's why the deaths aren't as amped up like other 80s slasher movies where they use props. They don't like use props like that. It's just raw actors and blood spewing out. That's why they ground it like that. That's why they didn't amp up the gore for Scream 4. I really didn't understand that until I had an appreciation more for the franchise over the past year. And watching a bunch of 80s slasher movies in the past year. You get it more. And anyway, and while it's happening, like a rap group like is dancing like it's so bad. They're like break dancing while Randy's death is happening. Unbelievable. And then the Sidney and Cotton Wary scene in the library, it reminds me of Happy Birthday to Me, where they meet up in the library. He almost talks like where the guy pulls her off to the side and talks to what's her name in Happy Birthday to Me. It's like almost the same angle in the library, and the library almost looks really similar. And Liev Schreiber was cast as Cotton Weary. He's a great actor. I loved him in the Omen remake. He had a great career in the 2000s. His career's starting to slow down a little bit, but he's always going to be a legend because of roles like Cotton Weary and the Manchurian Candidate, and his role in the Omen remake. I'm going to review that coming up soon. Look forward to that. That's a franchise that I really love. And then Gail's cameraman, Ray J, pieces out. And then Gail and Dewey fall in love and they get chased by Ghostface. It ends up on Stream Wikipedia. They were saying that, what's his name? Billy's mom wanted to go out her way and kill the remaining survivors from the first movie. Obviously, because Gail obviously helped kill Billy. And then Gail runs into Cotton's like bloody hands, and then she runs to the payphone. And she's like, "The killer's Cotton Weary," and Billy's mom is just like, "Cotton Weary." Like, how was she on that trail? That's hilarious. It's just great. Anyway, I'm gonna talk about the ending now. Mickey like tries setting up Jerry, O'Connell's character, Sidney's boyfriend, and he shoots him in the chest. And then Billy was like, and then he has the infamous quote where he's like, "Billy was a sick fuck that tried to get away with it, but Mickey is a sick fuck that wants to get caught." Mickey goes off on his stupid, crazy mind, and that he has a defense, so that he will be that he's gonna blame the movies, and he's like, and there's this line that he delivers at the end of it, and he's like, "I'll get a Christian coalition to pay for my legal fees," and then he's just like, "Oh, that's just classic." And then Billy's mom shows up, and he's like, "Billy's mother." Nice twist, son. Didn't see it coming. I can't say enough about Tilly Oliphant's performance as Mickey as the ending. So menacing. One of the greatest psychopaths I've seen at the end of any movie. And then Mickey's mom is just like, "We met on a psycho website with our dial-up internet." And she's like, "Only 97 active serial killers." And then they were saying that she staked him at Windsor College to get into Sidney's friends. And anyway, she ends up shooting him, and she's like, "Mickey, poor boy, he was completely out of his mind. Do you buy that movie motive for 1 second?" Oh, this is great. Billy's fucking mother. And then she's like, "My motive isn't as 90s as Mickey's. Just good old-fashioned revenge killing." That's usually what it is when it's a slasher. It's usually a revenge killing or some just random psychotic thrill killing. Revenge killing usually makes it that much sweeter, though. And then Cotton shows up. And he's just like, "I bet you that Diane Sawyer interview sounds really good right now, Sidney." Anyway, he ends up shooting Mrs. Loomis, and overall I'm going to give it 9 sorority houses out of 10. Great film. What takes away from it is all the freaking music that they play. It was I thought it was a really bad choice of films to play, or music to play, like I was saying. Anyway, I'm going to end this now. This was JBM from VillainNews, MrCreepshow09. Check out more horror movie updates, and shout out to Ghostface Kevin. Obviously, he loves this franchise. Every horror fan loves this franchise. Gotta love it. Kevin Williamson, Wes Craven directing. Doesn't get much better.